Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. It's Paulie, Esther here, and as we get closer to the release of Chapter 17 of Dead by Daylight, the Descend Beyond DLC, which contains the alchemist who has become the Blight as the killer and Felix Richter, the architect, as a survivor, we start to see Dead by Daylight providing us with the lore of these characters in some tweets. We got the Blight's lore the other day, and now we have Felix's lore here in this tweet. Felix stared at the scene in shock and disbelief. He wasn't sure if he was dreaming or living one of his father's ridiculous supernatural stories. Learn more about Felix Richter's origins here. And when you click that link, it takes you over to the Dead by Daylight official website, and we have this article here with Felix Richter's lore. So let's go ahead and read through all of this. Felix was born to Janos and Ursula Richter in Coburg, Germany, where the Richter family had deep connections and were among the most respected of its physicians. His parents, both members of an ancient society, were always out of the Richter manor at medical conferences or providing humanitarian aid around the world. Traveling exposed young Felix to new cultures, languages, and architecture unlike he had ever seen before. He wasn't sure when the architectural bug bit, but when it did, it bit hard, and he knew that despite his family's legacy, he would one day design buildings that would inspire the world. By 23, he was considered an architectural prodigy, having won the Swiss Architect Medal and the German National Design Award. Yet despite his success, Felix couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that his success had more to do with luck and connections than talent and hard work. Growing up, Felix was socially awkward and introverted, preferring his imagination to the company of others. He had few friends, so when he wasn't traveling with his parents, Felix was in his father's library devouring rare books, studying history and architecture, soaking up anything and everything he could on architectural movements throughout the centuries. His father hoped young Felix would learn to be more outgoing and hired every possible specialist to help improve his social skills. When these efforts failed, he threw in the proverbial towel and figured his son would learn when he was ready. He then joined young Felix in the library, where he helped him build elaborate wooden models of buildings while telling him wild stories about his secret club and their ancient battle against a dark and ominous force. Stories Felix was sure his father had made up to make his Imperiati group sound cooler than it actually was. Felix sometimes wondered if his design sensibilities came from his summer trips to Dyer Island, a private island that boasted some of the world's finest homes and designs. Every summer, Felix would accompany his parents to the island, where members of the Imperiati would encourage their children to network and forge lifelong connections. Felix didn't mingle well with the other teenagers, but he did make 4 friends who, like himself, didn't quite fit the high society mold. They were often ridiculed by other teens and disparagingly called the pariahs, a name they liked and gladly adopted. Instead of practicing public speaking and engaging in endless debates, the pariahs spent most of their time exploring the ruins and mysteries of the island until one of their adventures took a turn for the worse. Exploring an abandoned internment camp, they descended into what seemed to be an underground laboratory, where they uncovered old leather journals with illustrations and notes of inhumane experiments conducted on prisoners of the First Opium War held by the British East India Company. As they pushed through a locked door, they found a chamber scattered with human skeletons and dusty vials filled with an unknown serum. And before they could examine the contents, the ground seemed to shake beneath their feet and a hissing sound filled their ears. A strange fog suddenly appeared, and giant claws seemed to burst from the ground as dark imagination mingled with reality to terrorize them. Before they understood what was happening, Felix's father and several other parents came to their rescue, using strange tools and objects to protect them. Felix stared at the scene in shock and disbelief. He wasn't sure if he was dreaming or living one of his father's ridiculous supernatural stories. By the time he realized it wasn't a dream, it was all over. The pariahs were safe, but their parents had mysteriously disappeared without a trace. After the shock of his father's disappearance, Felix searched for any theory that could help him understand the phenomena he had encountered on the island. He exchanged notes with the pariahs and other people he had met online who had also lost loved ones in a similar way. The tragedy had fostered a strong relationship between the pariahs, and for years they worked together to unravel the mystery of what had happened to their parents. But nothing made sense, and every lead they pursued hit a dead end. With time, their efforts dwindled, and the 5 friends slowly grew apart, each going their separate ways, hoping to forget the nameless darkness that had robbed them of their parents. Over the years, Felix proved to be an exceptional architect, though he found little inspiration working for others. He realized his father was right. His lack of social skills was holding him back. With dedication and purpose, he improved his diction and decorum and learned how to network, or play act, as he liked to call it. He created the perfect facade to make himself more likable and popular with potential clients. After working for several architectural firms, he established his firm with his colleague Lauren Golder. Both shared a similar vision and were philosophically opposed to formulaic modernistic buildings and often experimenting with unusual materials, shapes, and structures. Felix continued to undermine traditional expectations in favor of the edgy and unconventional devices that set the architectural world abuzz. But even with all the accolades, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was a phony, like an actor who had learned a part instead of a true architect who had inspired the world with an impeccable design. During these moments of insecurity and self-doubt, he would distract himself with endless parties and drown his anxieties in alcohol, wishing his father was still around for some harsh advice and tempered wisdom. Eventually, Felix's girlfriend announced that he was going to be a father. The news shook him to the core, and wanting to inspire his unborn child as much as his father inspired him, he quickly pulled his life together. What he needed was a project that would challenge him and cement his worth as an architect. As fate would have it, the perfect opportunity presented itself when old friends of his father commissioned his firm, Richter and Golder, to build something new and unconventional on Dyer Island. The challenge excited and terrified Felix, who now drowned his anxieties with articles and books on parenting. Within 6 months, the Dyer restoration project was underway, and as Felix surveyed the island, he suddenly heard a familiar voice calling out to him from beyond the shattered Victorian buildings and the crumbling ruins hiding dark stories long hidden and forgotten. Through a strange gathering fog, he saw a form slowly take shape. His eyes widened and his lips parted, but no words issued forth. Could it be? Was it possible? No, it couldn't be. It was impossible. And yet, with dawning realization, Felix staggered back as he watched his father emerge from the fog. His legs felt weak, and his rising heartbeat thrashed in his ears. It was him. It was really him. His unborn child would know his grandfather, and he could finally show him how much he had accomplished since he disappeared. They stared at one another for a long moment. Then his father gave him a look of disappointment, turned his back on him, and proceeded to walk away. Over his pounding heart, Felix chased after him and was never seen again. See you in the fog. The Dead by Daylight team. So Felix's dad is already in the fog. Do you think we're going to see that as a character, or are they already a character? Is it possible that Felix's father is the Observer? Or Vigo? Inquiring minds want to know. Alright, well that's all I have for you today with Felix Richter's lore here. Nobody knows for sure. There hasn't been any official statement as far as I know when this DLC is due, but word on the street is that we're probably going to see it on all platforms September the 8th. So we'll just keep that in mind, and we'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing what changes they make to the Blight from what we experienced in the PTB, what goes to the live version. And when it comes out, no matter when it is, I'll be here to test it on day one and share it with all of you. Hope to see you then. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care of one another in and out of the fog, especially if your dad comes out of the fog calling to you. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.